Mouseke-Memories.
Hi, Mickey!
Big doings this week. Adventure, fun, music, cartoons, news. Everybody ready?
Ready!
Then on with the show.
Walt Disney and Mickey Mouse present the Mickey Mouse Club. Brought to you 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. And featuring the Mouseke-Memories.
There were many wonderful Mouseke-Memories, but these 6 talented people were there when it all began in 1955. Our trip down memory lane began on stage 1, home base of the Mickey Mouse Club.
It's astonishing to be sitting here in front of the original curtain.
It is.
It is.
That's something.
And it looks good.
I know.
None of us
50
knew it
years
still
later.
existed.
And it's been here the whole time, and it looks good, and you guys look good too. Was the audition process similar for each of you, or was it each of you have a different kind of story about how you got your jobs?
One of mine was like packed with
packed
kids.
kids,
Yeah,
yeah.
packed with them. That's right.
I was doing a film with Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis, Artists and Models, and we had to go to Capitol Records to pre-record the song that we were going to do in the film. And Jimmy Dodd was there doing a recording session and saw me and recommended me to Disney. So they called my agent and had me come in, and that's how mine happened.
I was playing drums in a little Dixieland band. My dad taught at a music studio. And they'd put the best players, the best trumpet player, best student together and put this little band together. And we did a show at the Screen Actors Guild one Christmas. And I was playing double bass drums and flipping drumsticks, and I looked like I was about 2 years old. And some producers were there, and they got in touch with my dad and said they were putting this show together at Disney, and would I be interested in auditioning? So that's how it happened for me.
Karen?
My dancing teacher heard about it through a friend that they were having auditions, and she sent like 4 of us, and they called me back for a second. And I really think, like we've all said, Disney was looking for people that were very
Grounded.
Yeah, and not real polished.
Right.
And I got the giggles in the middle of my dance. So that's the only thing I can think of, because there was
Karen
a
got
lot
the
of
giggles
kids.
a lot.
I used to, yeah.
And Doreen?
Well, my father had a dance studio called the Rainbow Studios. And one day my father said, watch the front desk. My dad liked to play cards. He had to go next door, play cards. And the phone rang, and there was a gentleman named Mr. Traver. And he said, I'm in charge of casting at Disney. And I'm looking for talented little boys and girls that can sing and dance. Do you know of any? I said, oh, I know one that's just... So that's how I got the part.
Right. You know, they really chose us particularly, not only for our talents, but our personalities, and they auditioned over 1,000 kids. And they
1,000
chose
kids, really?
1,000 kids through the years. You know, every year, you know, they would have new kids, and there was only 6-month contracts. And you had to be on your best behavior, because if you were doing something wrong, they didn't pick up your contract, and that was the end of your career.
Tap dancing is such a big part of the show. And I wonder, how challenging did they make the routines for you?
Well, there were all levels of tap dancers. Some of the ones that are specialized in tap dancing, like Lonnie and Sharon and maybe me, they would give us special numbers where it might be the threesome, and they let us do a little special tap dance, you know.
It's very frightening, though, when I came in, because I was semi-professional. And when you see Lonnie and Sharon coming in, and you've seen them in major films or on the Donald O'Connor show, you get frightened. You go, oh my goodness.
Intimidating.
Yes, very intimidating.
Some of us had never been professionals. I had done 75 amateur TV shows. This was my first professional job. That's why when you see me, I'm so glad to get paid for what I'm doing, and I'm going like this. I mean, I'm going out of my mind on those first
I'm
year
glad you finally
shows.
explained it.
you were learning new material all the time. So obviously you must have been quick studies.
You had to be a quick study. It was the nature of the
Right.
business. But we did break down into 3 groups. So one group was rehearsing, and one group was shooting, one group was going to school. And there were 39 kids, but only 9 of us lasted the entire 3 years of filming. The 4th year was rerun.
There was some sense of competition among you at different times. What kind of competitiveness did you exhibit?
Well, if Annette was learning to do fortes, am I pronouncing it correctly?
Fortes, close.
Fortes.
Yeah.
And she could do 16, well then it was your obligation to try to do as many or more because you wanted that time in front of the camera. You didn't want your competitors getting that time in front of the camera. And that kind of competition. And that went on all the time. And she was one of the best.
Her ballet was terrific.
She was one of the most strong and yet very ethereal ballerinas.
Sometimes they come up with these real weird requests. And so one time I remember they said, now does anybody ride a unicycle? And I said, oh, I can ride a unicycle. And of course I didn't know how to ride a unicycle. So afterwards I said, well, you know, I wanted to have a little more airtime on, so I raised my hand. They said, oh, we not only want you to ride a unicycle, but we want you to juggle at the same time. I've never juggled. So they ended up sending a circus specialist to my home in Long Beach, and I learned how to only go forward and go out, juggling at the same time, yeah.
But you did it.
And I was on TV a little longer.
Tell us your memories and your impressions of Walt Disney.
He was always affable. He was always in a good mood when I saw him. And I think everybody else will say the same thing. You never saw him having a problem with something. If he did, he didn't show it. He was just like very mellow.
There was no worry or
Soft-spoken,
soft-spoken.
gentle. He wouldn't let people swear around us.
Sometimes we'd see him in the back of the soundstage and he'd be watching us, but he wouldn't come up and talk to us.
No.
But they said he watched every daily and made suggestions and that kind of thing.
My fondest memory of Walt Disney was the day Disneyland opened. And our show hadn't aired yet, so we didn't know if it was going to be a hit or not. And after we performed at the Mickey Mouse Club Theater, we came back to his apartment that was up over the firehouse. And I was standing next to him. I was 12 years old. He was looking at the gate where people were coming through, and he had his hands behind his back. He had a grin from ear to ear, but you could see the lump in his throat and the tear coming down his cheek because his dream had been realized.
That must have been really something. But of course, I have to ask you about Roy. and there's the answer right away.
Here's my old partner, Roy.
Here's my old partner, Jim.
Step right up.
But he was a gag man for Walt. And he really didn't want to do it. Walt said, you know, I want you to be the big Mouseke-Memories. He drew, you know. So he was sort of a reluctant. But that came across really well, I think, in the pairing between him and Jimmy and
He was
the
such
kids.
a contrast.
True.
He was sort of like your irascible uncle.
Yo! Yay! Wow! Whoa! What's all the shooting about?
Time for the Mouseketeers roll call.
He invented the ears, basically, because he remembered a cartoon in which Mickey was seeing Minnie or someone and went like this, and his head came off.
He would give a kid a pencil and say, "No, squiggle something," and he would make a picture out of it. He would just, it was really a neat little thing to do.
I'm always hearing records that collect.
He was such an unlikely part of a show like that, and yet he was such a perfect part of
because
the
he
show.
didn't sing and dance.
Yeah.
No.
You know, he just kind of bopped around.
This is a tape. You can hear a pin drop on the big sound stage as the Mouseketeer Company gets set for action. Introducing the Mouseketeers.
There was something real happening on that show.
It's always been like a second family.
Right.
It really
it's
has.
extended
It's
family.
We can be
definitely,
apart for
you know,
years, and as soon as we
family
get back together, it's like we've never been
Yeah,
apart again.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we do get together at collectors' conventions and weddings. I mean, Sherry's daughter just got married. We all went to Rome to the Vatican to see her daughter get married. So
Oh
that
my
was
gosh.
interesting, yeah.
And
did
in
not get-
the 80s, we got back together and actually did shows at Disney.
Disneyland, yeah.
Right.
It was
Yeah.
great.
And the attendance went up like, what, they said 25% when we were there.
right, yeah.
And we did 5 shows a day,
Yeah.
right? Like
It was-
16 numbers.
I really never had any sense of how important this show was or would be until we went to do a reunion thing at Disneyland, and we had like groupies and we had people hanging, and I'm thinking, you know, what's this all about? I had no idea because I stayed away for so long.
On those reunion shows, there would be people who would come to see every single show, like 5 a day. Yeah, I remember the one especially that liked Cubby, and would sit in the front row and mouth all the words right along with us.
Yeah, that's true.
But they still do that.
They still do
if
that.
they come to see us. Well, what happened to me when I left town, because of the lack of consistent work, I put an act together and I was traveling for USO for close to 4 years. And I was in country in Vietnam for about 1 year and 3 months, entertaining. Somebody would get a pair of ears and they'd pass it around in the audience, and before you know it, there would be a whole sea of guys with their guns over their shoulders standing up and singing the M-I-C-K-E-Y-M-O-U-S-E. And that brought a tear to your eye.
Really, that was just like America the Beautiful or something. It was.
Went on tour to Australia together?
Jimmy Dodd formed a group of about, maybe 8 of us. And we were like Elvis there. I mean, they screamed and would tap dance and sing, and they tried to turn our cabs over and rip our clothes off. It was a lot of fun, right?
Yeah. At the airport when we landed, there were 10,000 people.
10,000.
Right.
It was unbelievable. We were
Great
so
fun.
popular because Australia had just gotten television at the time, and it was just blank until 5. And at 5, the Mickey Mouse Club came on, so it was the first thing on the air.
It'd be lovely if Annette could be joining us today, and we're very sad that she's not here. I just wanted to talk a little about her.
I talk to her every couple of weeks, maybe even once a week. And she's battling a terrible disease.
Time to twist our mousey dial to the right and the left with a great big smile. This is the way we get to see a mouse cartoon for you and me.
She was charismatic. There was something ineffable about Annie that the screen picked up, and she had something that everyone responded to, and she has always had it.
Intrinsically, Annette is a very loving and very caring individual, but she was the first ethnic-looking child on television.
That's true.
Who was on TV every day, 5 days a week.
And at that time, it was Lola Brigida, and it was Sophia Loren, and it was Funicello.
But she still has that feisty part of her, because she loved to laugh. I mean, Shelley Fabaret, Annette and I used to get the giggles, talk about giggles.
They wanted me to dance with her and do a little ballet bit, which I did. But I would go put her into a lift and she'd start giggling and she would get real loose, and I actually dropped her on the floor one time, and instead of getting mad, she giggled and laughed.
Well, it could have been
And I
worse.
said, you gotta have stronger wrists so I can put you up there, you know? Leonard, you're such a great Mickey Mouse Club fan. We want to make you an honorary Mouseke-Tier.
Oh, my God.
And here's how we do it. Step right up.
Step right up.
Here's your ears.
Here's your ears.
You're an honorary Mouseke-Tier. Welcome to the club, all right.
Thank you. I've never been prouder. Thank you very much.
Great job, Dave.
I'm Leonard.
I'm Leonard.
And now, Mousketeers, here's something we want you always to remember.
Now it's time to say goodbye to all our company. M-I-C.
See you real soon.
K-E-Y. Why? Because we like you. M-O-U-S-E.
Well, partners, guess that's all for today. Be seeing you all next Monday. It'll be a real rootin' tootin' show.